How's everybody doing? Just waiting for everything to figure out that we're actually live. I can see that we're live, so welcome everybody to the Making Awesome Podcast, Season 3, Episode 9. I'm just going ahead and letting other Discord channels know that we're streaming, because that kind of stuff is important, yo. Holidays are upon us, and, well, that means if you are in the 3D printing industry, or you're someone who is trying to get a 3D printer for their kid, whomever it might be, you you might be wondering what there are so many enders, let alone so many other printers that exist out there. Um yeah, it's kind of insane. And it's not all that easy to understand. Let me make sure I'm recording on Zoom as well. Am I? I am. Beautiful. I always film these inside of Zoom for those that didn't know. Now you do know. So now you know a little bit of the behind the scenes. But anyways, the holidays mean that as 3D printing people, we are going to get asked, hey, so-and-so wants to get a 3D printer for the holidays. What should I buy them? And as soon as you get that question asked, the first thing you need to ask back is how much money do you have to spend? And if it's not a ton of money and you don't want to be the person that they call for advice, say that immediately. Say, just so you're aware, at this price point, you might have some issues with the printer. I don't want to be the person that you lean on all the time. You can call the experts at 3D Musketeers. Eh? You like that integration? Oh yeah, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't. And if you are listening to this back audio only a week later, of course, make sure to join us sometime on the weekends, normally 1 or 2 o'clock, Saturday or Sunday. Sometimes I do it on a Monday, sometimes I do it on a Friday. I do it sometime on the weekend-ish, okay? Like, you know, it's bankers hours around here. I've been working all damn morning. But anyways, there's so many options out there. And before we get too deep into it, I want to rant a little bit. And if you all saw kind of the big thing going on in the community right now, it's that Bamboo Lab Bamboo Lab is teasing another printer before they've had all their pre-orders delivered. Like, are you serious right now? Like, I get it, right? You've clearly learned something and you want to release a new printer, but you're kind of Julius Caesaring all your freaking people that backed you on Kickstarter, all the people that are your fan base. You're kind of screwing them. And that's not cool. And it's obvious because a lot of the fan group, the fanboys on Facebook, the Facebook groups are pissed. And that means they've properly been upset because those Facebook groups, when they get a hold of my videos and I'm talking about a Bamboo Lab failure, I delete a lot of comments because they're not just being rude, they're being personally attacking. And now they're seeing the true colors of this company. And that is a company that is trying to get more money, more better, more faster. And I get it. They're in the startup phase. They need to get some cash. Totally get it. But like, dude, come on. So it's the P1P is what they're talking about. Not any information about it right now. I've reached out to the people that I know on the inside, and we'll see if we can get any kind of intro information. But as it currently stands, Bamboo Lab is on my naughty list this year. And it's funny because they were a little under 2 months from their probationary period being up, and now they've set it again. They've reset their probationary period, and that's so ridiculous. Like, how can you release that many? You're not Creality. Stop it. Like, you're going to upset people. Now, if this new printer is resin, fine, but it's not. It's clearly not resin. Like, the people that are the sleuths of the internet, that's not resin. So I digress. Let's move on from Bamboo Lab. Although we can talk about the X1 Carbon if you guys want to. But let's go back to kind of budgets, right? I used to say the Prusa Mini was the king of 3D printers under $500, and I don't know if it still is. And that kind of upsets me. It upsets me because I love my minis. Like, I love my minis a lot. I actually ordered a clone mini from AliExpress. We're going to do a video on it, comparing it to a legit mini. And we're going to talk about, like, it's a hardware kit. It comes with no printed parts. So you got to have a 3D printer to do it. That's going to be a video coming eventually. Definitely not until the new year, because the kit's not even going to come until, like, mid-December. But got a lot of people hanging out in the chat. Let's give some shout outs. Got Morbus with the first comment saying Bamboo just released a blog post saying that all printers ordered right now should arrive before Christmas. Cool. But they've had some pretty serious shipping delays. We got Ryan76, Mr. Chris Catlett himself, Sanders 3D, Build on Sound, Adam Fenton, Pez Liz, thank you for being a channel member. Allison Ford is here. I said Build on Sound, got Printed Visions, and Worse Peter. Thank you all for hanging out. And if I missed you, yell at me in the comments. But appreciate you guys coming over and hanging out. I love my Prusa minis, but historically, they've been problematic for some. Like, really problematic for some. Like, to the point of the best thing you can do when you get a Prusa Mini is to put a $150 Revo on it and the Mad Monkey MM10 upgrade. And yes, Liz, you can yell at me anyways. That's fine. You know, whatever. But, and that sucks, right? And like, all of my minis work perfectly fine out of the gate. So that's just my personal experience. However, some people don't have that experience. And it's not necessarily fair for me to look at my singular experience and say, well, that's gospel. Companies like Sovol, S-O-V-O-L, and Elegoo, both of them have, as far as I can describe them, they're Mark 3S, but out of China, right? They are direct drive, although it's the Elegoo Neptune 3 Pro. It is not out yet. It is not even in pre-order yet, but it looks like it's going to be around $230 US. That's a great price point. The Sovol SVO6 is currently $230, and Proper Printing has a $20 code, which is pretty cool. Promo code PROPER gets you $20 off the SVO6, taking it to $210. I might just buy one, but I don't need to spend more money at this point. Nonetheless, you know, those two printers are a lot of bang for your buck. You're looking at direct drive, not all metal, fine. You know, that's totally acceptable at this price point. They've got a PEI flex plate, direct drive, auto bed leveling, filament runout sensors, literally everything that I would want in a printer, but at a reasonable price, right? When a comparable printer from Prusa costs literally quadruple-ish, a little bit under quadruple. Can I easily recommend a Mark 3S? And right now, no, I can't. I love the Mark 3S. I love the 9 that I own, but they're aged. And anyone that says the Mark 3S is still tip of the top current tech, you're wrong, right? It's an 8-bit board, and that 8-bit board works. It works great. It's functional. And it's the thing about the Mark 3S. I turn it on, I click print, and I walk away. It just works. And when you're looking at these more affordable printers, something from Elegoo, Anycubic, I don't give a damn. Pick your poison for these companies, right? You absolutely will have work that you have to put in, right? It's not as straightforward and simple as, oh, I'm going to plug in my Elegoo and it's going to work every time. It might not. Now, with auto bed leveling, especially mesh bed leveling, and Uncle Jesse's video on the Neptune 3 Pro looked really good. They're quiet printers because they use V-wheels rather than ball bearings. I prefer ball bearings. They last longer than V-wheels, but again, you have cost-saving methods, and V-wheels are going to be cheaper. You know, but kind of honestly, even the regular Neptune 3, which I think is right around the $200 price point, which is Bowden, great printer for the money. Like, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a printer that good for that much money anywhere. And like, I'm a Prusa fanboy, and I've said it many times. I love Prusas. I still firmly believe that the Mark 3S and the Mini are some of the best printers on the market, bar none, period. But it's hard to sit here and say you should spend double the amount of money on a Prusa Mini when you can get a bigger printer that is direct drive for half the price. Now, the thing with Prusa that you're not going to get with other companies is a warranty, like a legit warranty, and people that you can reach out to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week via the live chat. Reach out to them via their live chat. Don't email them. Just use the freaking live chat. You're going to get that. You're going to get a company that will send you parts fast. Even in the Czech Republic, they're sending parts very, very fast. And that means you get your stuff quicker. And that's a big freaking deal, right? Even further, you support open source, right? Prusa is a open source company. They do open source. That's their deal. Where a lot of these other companies just kind of steal from open source and don't abide by the rules. Bamboo Lab being one of them. And some people can sit here and say, well, they corrected it. Yeah, but they still broke the rules. If you blew by the cop doing 120 miles an hour in a 60, but by the time he caught up to you, you were doing 60, and you say, well, I was doing 60 when you caught me, well, did you still break the law? Did you still break the rules? The answer is yes, you still broke the rules, and you should suffer the consequences. Well, Bamboo hasn't really seen any of that, and a lot of that is because, well, bang for the buck, they got a pretty decent machine. With that being said, right? Oh, and that's fair. My mom just sent me a text message. Gummy bears. Prusas come with gummy bears. That is a big deciding factor, okay? I'd like to let you know you're not spending $450 on a Prusa Mini. You're spending that on gummy bears, and you get a free Mini that comes with it. Just saying. Thank you, Mom. Appreciate the little quip in there. K2 says, I've tried washing off the dirty feeling I have for I want to, it's Focus, but you know how you want to pronounce it, right? Like, you know how you want to pronounce it. And I'm going to try to keep this one reasonably family friendly because, like, it's designed for parents to listen to, and I don't want the first time of people listening to me being, you know, me going off on a rant, getting pissed at things. So we're going to be a little bit more PC this time. I know, you're looking for Grant rants. You might get them later, but I'm going to try to keep the cussing to a minimum. But yeah, he says, K2 says, I've tried to wash off the dirty feelings I have for Focus. Nothing works. Even the great support Pez Liz received 2 months later. Think about that. If you reach out to a company because your printer's broken and they take 2 months to get back to you, I might call them 3D Systems. Ooh, that's a hit on 3D Systems that nobody other than me is going to get. That's fine. They took 3 months to fix a $90,000 printer of mine. Very upset about that. And, you know, Prusa's had some rough goes recently. There's been some quality control issues on the Mark III. There are people getting Mark IIIs with hot ends that are melting, with control boards that have problems. Now, do I directly contribute that to Prusa? I don't think so. I think that's the vendors that they're buying from more so than Prusa themselves. But, you know, grain of salt that, of course. Let's see. Fernando Lopez says, we have to talk about Rat Rig. I'm not a huge fan of first-time printers being hardcore kits like a Rat Rig or a Voron. I think there's a lot of value in Voron and Rat Rig and some of those other like self-source or specifically from LDO, get the kit from LDO. But I don't think for like a kid or even a first-timer that's honestly indicative of what they can expect. If they want to go hard in the paint for the industry, and by all means, feel free to go hard in the paint for the industry. I love that kind of thing when people, you know, really geek out. But I don't think that a Rat Rig or a Voron that are around $1,000, like even if you self-source the parts, you're going to be doing it for like $800 to $900. I don't think that's worth it. I think there's a lot of potential ways that goes wrong. And I'd rather get from a reputable, and I say reputable, but I'd rather go from a company that has the track record of delivering easy to assemble machines. And Elegoo, Anycubic, Creality, those machines are easy to assemble, right? The instructions are very basic. If you don't follow them to a T, you will screw things up. And like, I've been dealing with this. My brother finally put together his first kind of 3D printer in a few years. He's been using this farm for a while, and you get spoiled with a Prusa farm because you just click print and you go. And I have had some failures, but a lot of that's been because of my settings rather than the printers themselves. So, but and I'm finding that most of my PETG is pretty damp. So that's been fun. Like this box, I printed this box on MakerDeck. The other part of it's behind me. This one was like real stringy and nasty. So I put on the reverse Bowden tube for the dry box and it worked great. And you could tell when it started to dry out because it stopped being stringy. It's kind of funny. But, you know, the big thing that I have here is price to performance. And, you know, even the Kobra from Anycubic, the Kobra line, those seem to be decent printers. Now, I've got is that a Kobra that I have? I don't know. One of our Patreon members dropped it by at my house. Aaron dropped it by. He's like, I hate this thing. Oh, it's a Viper. It's a Viper. And we're going to be doing a video on that of buying or receiving used 3D printers. And I got a really cool cold open for that video. It does require me messing up my yard a little bit, but it's worth it. It'll be fun. Nonetheless. Wow, Printavision says, I bought my used Prusa Mini off Facebook. The USB port wasn't working properly. I reached out to Prusa and they sent me a brand new one. That's customer support, a brand new motherboard. I don't think they're supposed to warranty secondhand machines, but hey, whatever. You know, that's all fine. Let me see what's going on. So Build on Sound says, I got a long bit of my experience to buy my first 3D printer, and it's long. Okay. So when I tried to get into 3D printing, I did a lot of research beforehand. And what were the benefits of SLA compared to FDM or PLA? For those that don't know, SLA is your resin 3D printing. Resin is toxic, of course. There's no thing that comes up on the screen. I'm sorry. But resin is toxic. Resin printers are bad for printers for people. Do not get a resin printer for children. Be very, very careful about resin. So we'll do that. You know, we'll kind of start there. What is the power draw? What are the most expensive issues, right? Those are things that you want to look at. They also checked reviews about people owning the printers and what processes they had to go through on a regular basis. After a long search, Build on Sound decided to go SLA for a couple of reasons. The process from turning a solid into a semi-liquid to a solid seems wasteful. I mean, yeah, the whole heating process is a little wasteful, but printers don't draw a ton of heat. If there is high heat involved, that's more money on my energy bill, but I hate the risk of burning or melting or, God forbid, a house fire. To be clear, modern 3D printers don't generally have thermal runaway issues. You can check this by removing the thermistor from your hot end, telling the printer to heat up, and waiting 2 minutes. If the printer does not halt heating within 2 minutes, it is time to get rid of that printer. It is a fire hazard. Now, if you are worried about printer fires, and, you know, I can't blame you, there are reasons to be worried, but if you buy a decent printer, your risks are incredibly mitigated. Wham Bam just released a product called The Cloud. I have a few. We're going to be doing a video on them where we test them. So yes, might be setting another printer on fire, might be setting the same old printer on fire. I don't know yet, but there will be a fire. There will be an explosion. And hopefully, if it works, it'll put out the fire. And for $30, I think that's cheap insurance on a 3D printer. I would absolutely buy one of those. Code Musketeers 2022, links in the description, for 10% off of Wham Bam through the end of 2022. And then Build on Sound says, 3, the process from a liquid to a solid looks easier and less wasteful. For pricing, if someone gives the ghost, SLA seems... Oh, if something gives up the ghost, SLA seems overall cheaper to repair or fix. Maybe. The big thing for me with resin is disposal and handling of the materials, right? With plastic 3D printing, if you have municipal recycling, they'll take the plastic, generally speaking. Check with them first. We actually, looks like we actually get municipal recycling now. My neighbors have blue trash cans. I don't. So I will need to remedy that situation post haste. Because I would like to start doing that and not have to drive to the freaking recycling center to give my plastic. But yes, waste is a big deal. And with either of them, right, you're going to put some waste into landfills. There's really no way around it. It's just going to happen. So you have to get over the ecological issue that's being created. If you can't, then don't get into 3D printing. There's really no material that properly biodegrades. And yes, eventually PLA will biodegrade. But that's going to take a long time, and it must be under ideal conditions. If it's not ideal, it's not going to work. Oh man, Bill on Southside Grant going out with a bang. That would be very funny as the last video we do for the year. We go out with a bang, literally, because there's a small explosive charge in the cloud. So that I might do that. That might just be funny as a joke. Maybe we'll do that. Ending at 2022 with a bang. But I believe FDM is a better first printer, and I believe that because they're easier to fix and maintain, and they don't involve a bunch of PPE. Yeah, stay away from hot stuff on FDM and you'll be fine. But with resin, if you get the resin on your skin, you really, really, really have to work. You have to clean it, and you'll eventually build up an allergic reaction. I don't like resin. TLDR, I don't like resin for first printers, especially for children. If you're an adult, you understand the risks, you understand how to deal with all of that, by all means, go with resin. But I don't think that I would go with resin for first-timers for kids, just straight up personally. And I think I'm agreeing with Zombie Hedgehog here that the resin process is a lot more involved than FDM. The slicers are not as straightforward. Lychee Slicer is good. The free version is okay. I recommend one of the paid versions, but that, again, it adds the cost of ownership. Is that big of a deal? No. Filament for FDM printers is cheaper than resin for resin printers, so there's that as well. And I think the color options and the material options are more wide for filament-based printing than they are for resin-based. Now, will that change in the coming years? Maybe. But right now, that's the thing. And for whatever it might be worth, you can print engineering grade materials on a cheap resin printer. You cannot print engineering grade materials on a cheap FDM printer. You will need an all metal hot end for that. So something to be aware of as well. Let's talk about Creality. Creality is a company that doesn't give a damn about IP. They don't give a damn about the community. They actively steal things from companies and are currently in at least one lawsuit regarding intellectual property. They have a software system called Creality Cloud that just does not give a flying damn about any intellectual property. And when brought to the attention by the community, they kind of did things, and then after a couple of days stopped because they realized nobody was going to really care after a couple of days. I, under no circumstances, recommend that you support Creality at this time. If Creality can get their act together and actually fix their game, right, and start playing by the rules, maybe. But right now, they're tainted, and it's bad business for me. I, as a company, cannot, will not, and at this point, will never be buying first-hand Creality products. Now, they've got a half-decent belt printer, the CR30. I do own one. I bought it for $350. At that price point, I will buy a CR30. I don't care. I will take the risk. Belt printers are not good first printers. Do not buy belt printers for people for first printers. Please, dear God, don't do that. And if you are near a Micro Center, I understand that the $100 Ender 3 promotion that they do often is a good value. It is. It is a phenomenal value for a printer. But I don't believe that Enders specifically make good first printers. They are not auto bed leveled. They are not all metal. They are not direct drive. They do not have filament runout sensors. And these are all creature comforts that make you as the gift giver or you as the person recommending the printer absolved of more sins. It's less your fault than it would be if you recommended a cheap printer, now all of a sudden it doesn't work. To give you an idea, my brother bought his first printer. It was $165. He bought it was a Tronxy Ender clone, 255 by 255 by 260. It was an Amazon deal. It was $165. It was auto bed level. It was dual extruder, but single nozzle, so it had the 2-in-1. He has already replaced the extruder, the hot end, and he put a magnetic flex plate on it. He's already put like $50-$60 into it, and I just gave him a care package with an E3D V6, an all-metal Mark 8 hot end with a diamond nozzle on it. That's a $100 diamond nozzle, by the way. And just like all these other things to make this printer run reliably. And like, at what point does it, yeah, at one point. Okay, it's a Tronxy XY2 Pro. I just, man, I don't know. It's a rough one. Fevered Mini Prop says looking for a 300 by 300 build volume. Okay, you're looking for a Core XY. Any suggestions that I would give on a solid machine without the Voron price tag? No. Nope. Not Core XY. Core XY specifically, you're going to get a lot of value out of Voron. But yeah, you're a 2.4 at a 350 is expensive. Like $1,600-$1,800. So I still recommend a bed slinger. If you are looking to do parts that big, look at, could you do smaller parts and then assemble, or do you really need that big build volume? So instead, I might look at something that isn't a bed slinger, but might not also be Core XY. A Prusa XL is a good option, but they're not shipping until January. So, but again, you're still looking at a pretty expensive machine. So, Zombie is saying a Voron Trident is probably the best value. Noted. So SJC is saying, now hear me out, the BQ Huracan uses Clipper. Looks like a pretty good machine for newbies with a lot of modern amenities for the price. The thing with Clipper is that it is not a common firmware yet. It is much more technical than Marlin and will require a lot of manual tuning and manual knowledge. I think Clipper printers make great second printers, third printers, fourth printers. I don't think they make good first printers. Now, let me be clear. I don't have any experience with Elegoo's Neptune line. I reached out for review units and they said no. They don't have any more, which seems weird, but fine. I reached out to Anycubic to get review units of the Kobra, and when this podcast is over, I will reach out to BQ to get a Huracan. Because I would like to learn some more about it, but because Clipper scares me, and I've been in this industry for 15 years, I can't necessarily recommend that somebody buy a Clipper printer for somebody else for their first printer. Now, what I can recommend is that you leave a like on the stream. And if you aren't subscribed, get subscribed. And if you are listening audio only, make sure to follow the podcast, rate it if that's still a thing. And if you like the kind of stuff that we do and you believe it's worth it, we have a Patreon and we have YouTube channel memberships where you can kick a couple of bucks into that creator fund every single month and help us out to make these videos, because I don't get paid for this. Not yet, at least. We are looking for some corporate sponsors. I am in talks with a couple. I am still trying to figure out what it should be valued at. So if any of you are influencers in the industry and you know what a basic ad read costs, please let me know. I have an idea of what I'd like it to cost, but I don't know if I am overestimating or underestimating. And I certainly, if I'm going to do anything, I want to underestimate, not overestimate. So, yeah. Anyways. K2 says it is difficult to be surprised or angry at a Chinese company for doing exactly what we expect a Chinese company to do. All right. That's bad rhetoric. I want to remove that rhetoric. It is bad because US companies and other companies aren't taking care of their IP in China. China has very lackadaisical IP laws when it comes to the US, right? US patent and trademark laws are like gospel. In China, if you have a Chinese patent, then yes, it can very well be upheld. But if you don't, it's as if there isn't anything and they can copy it. So do I blame these companies? I don't. They are trying to make a buck. They're doing it off the backs of others, which is a, shame on them thing. But you know what? The community is going to buy them no matter what. And I, as an individual, have to decide what I do, right? Me personally, I want a Neptune 3 Pro because I want to compare it to a Mark 3S. And I want to see, is the value really there? I want a Sovol SV06 because I want to compare it to a Neptune 3 Pro and a Mark 3S. And a Mini, for that matter, because they're half the price of a Mini. And see, where does this value to performance line start to move? I believe the Sovol SV06, Elegoo Neptune 3, or the Neptune 3 Pro will be some of the best bang for the buck printers on the market, period. And as someone who is about to hang an 8-foot wide printables banner on their standing set, that's hard for me to say. Now, I'm not paid by any of these companies, so my opinions are my own. They don't reflect 3D Musketeers because we don't sell printers. And I don't want to sell printers. Like, if we have affiliate links, obviously we make a commission on the sale, but I am not motivated. So those affiliate links don't make me jack any money, like no money. Now, be careful with some of the larger format Crealities. As Ryan76 is saying, I made a mistake buying a Creality CR10 V3 for my first printer. It was a bad printer, but it at least had support by the community than any others. I know it's just a V2 with direct drive, but still. Now, that's the deal, right? If you buy a cheap printer, don't expect any support from the company. If you want somebody to help you with this, and you don't find good videos from the content creators online, and you can't find good, non-toxic communities, well, you're kind of on your own, and you're going to learn by doing. And that may not be fun. Now, for children, if they've got a good patience about them, you might get away with it. But if they get really pissy quickly, I don't know, man. It might not be a good move. It might be a better move to have, a partner or a family member buy a printer for you that you learn, and then it just becomes the kid's printer or whatever, right? You provide, like, we have staff members locally, and when I get rid of machines, they get first dibs, right? If they want the machine, great. If not, I give them to the local Fab Labs and all that. Hey, Fotis, how you doing, buddy? Thanks for coming over and hanging out. Also, be nice to people. That's the one big thing I want to point out, and Fotis reminded me of that. Fotis is a great guy. If you don't know Fotis Mint, go check him out. Patreon.com/FotisMint makes an absolutely amazing models. And he just did a portrait of me for one of his recent models. It's a joke. He did like some weird troll thing that's just like melty and ugly, and it was a joke, and I love it, and it's funny. Anyways, Fotis is a great designer, and if you are looking for models to mess around with, to print, to enjoy, to put on a shelf, and really see the value that you can get out of a 3D printer, Fotis legitimately makes some damn good models. Thank you, Fotis, for your support in the community. But yeah, be nice to people. Don't be the person that's gonna start a flame war with a content creator, because you're not gonna win. You're not going to win. Don't be that guy. I'm looking at you, Travis. Anyways. So Favored Mini Props saying that they make props, so the bigger the build volume, the better, because assembly really adds to the time invested. Hoping to cut print times down. Cutting models up only to spend time assembling doesn't make sense. And you know what? That's a great thing. Let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about use cases for printers. You might look at it and say, well, I could get an Anycubic Chiron for, I think they're $260, $270, and they're like a 16-inch cube build volume. The bigger the printer, the better, right? Well, if you're just going to print benchy boats, these tugboats that are, they're calibration prints. We're going to do a video on it eventually. If all you do is print benchy boats, a printer that big is useless, right? But if you're going to be printing big terrain parts for a D&D game or wargaming, a Prusa Mini at 180 millimeters square or cube is going to be a long, long bit of printing. I would look at, for me personally, I'd look at trying to get the best bang for the buck, but understand that if you're doing it and you want to do it as a business, right? So let's say you're buying it for a young entrepreneur and they want to start, selling parts to friends or whatever, you will really, really, really have to, make sure that you're getting value. Value really, really matters here. And sure, $100 Ender 3 is a great value, but is it worth the headache? I think it's not. But that's, that's just me. Sanders 3D says, next month I will join. Sanders, it's the 13th. Like, go join Fotis's Patreon. Seriously. Unless you're saying you're going to join mine next month. I don't know. But go join Fotis's. If you don't support Fotis Min, go over and support the damn guy. He does good work. Zombie is saying an option could always be an Ender 5 with the Mercury 1 upgrade kit. It's more involved but easier than a full custom printer. And that's fair. So for Fevered Mind props, for you, because you're clearly not a newbie, getting a printer like an Ender 5 and putting a Mercury 1 upgrade kit on it might be a good value for you. But you're not a first timer. See, I would never recommend like an Ender 5 style printer with an upgrade kit for a newbie. That is so much work. And my brother's finding this out. He's like, well, I could buy these $7 Mark 8 hot ends, or I could go buy an E3D V6, but the V6 is going to require a custom part. And if my printer doesn't work, I can't make that custom part. I said, so buy the $7 crappy hot end, use it to the first thing to make the new parts you need, and then run it till it dies, and then install a V6. And you're done. Problem solved. Move on. And of course, print a swatch truck. Zombie Hedgehog has a great model called the swatch truck. It gives you filament color, and it also has a tolerance test on it because the wheels on the truck should go round and round. Round and round, round and round. And if it doesn't, well, then your tolerances suck and you should fix it. Peslu says, I still think the average consumer needs to start somewhere. And as long as you can upgrade and tinker with the printer, it's a good step depending on how creative and resourceful you are. I agree. Jason says focus is on the background or whatever, and I'm blurry. No, I shouldn't be blurry. Let me make sure I'm streaming to the right resolution. Give me a second. I am streaming 1920 by 1080. I'm streaming 1080p. I'm sorry if I look blurry. Maybe give it a little bit for it to kick up or turn up your quality on the stream. I agree with Liz that you do have to start somewhere, and saying to spend $1,000 on a printer is stupid, right? Okay, people are saying I look fine. Well, then I'm blaming it on Sanders. I can't recommend spending $1,000 on a first printer. Like, it sucks. You have to find that value. And Zombie Hedgehog is a big King Rune fan. He loves the KP3S. That's a 180 millimeter cube. That printer runs like 250. Not a bad machine, but I don't know how it's gonna hold up to something like a Sovol or a Neptune 3 Pro. That kind of stuff changes things. And is it a good printer? Yeah, actually, it looks like a great printer. It's got freaking linear rails on some of its axes, which are just insane. And for the money, that's just really, really, really cool. Let's see. Oh, and apparently the KP5L from King Rune is a half decent 300 millimeter printer. Oh, and he apparently did a review, so cool beans. For individuals, though, I think an Ender 3 size, like anywhere between 180 and 250 millimeter on the XY, and then the Z axis somewhere around 200 to 300 millimeters is more than adequate. You don't need more than that. The bigger of a printer you go, the more problems you're likely going to have, and the longer it's going to take to heat up that build plate. And if it is a bed slinger where the bed moves forward and backwards, okay, the bigger build plate that you have, the more risk you run of, your parts warping, things starting to rock because you're moving your center of gravity up when you make big parts. There's a lot of value to having smaller machines and multiples of them. I believe the Neptune 3 Pro and the Sova SV06 are roughly the same size, like 225 by 225 by 260. And I think that's a great build volume. That's a little under 9 inches XY, and the Z is a little bit over 10 inches. So I think there's a lot of good value in there, and reasonably, you are able to get a lot going on there. That's a lot of, look, the bulk of what we print, even this big part here, easily fits on a Prusa. I still have that file open. Let me check the size of it so that I don't make an oopsie. That part is 215 by 182. So if your printer is bigger than 215 millimeters in X or Y, then you're great. It'll fit this big friggin' part. And you might say, well, I can get this printer for only a little bit extra. Look at any of the features you might be missing. Filament runout sensors are not necessary, but it's absolute peace of mind, in my opinion. Printers that have direct drive, again, not necessary, but much easier to work with. Printers that have all metal hot ends, not necessary. If you don't have an all metal hot end, that would be one of the upgrades that I'd look at doing in the future. What else? Oh, flex plates, right? PEI, so polyether imide, or otherwise known as ULTEM, flex plates are amazing. Textured or untextured doesn't really matter. That's more of a preference. I love flex plates, and I believe they are a necessity. Yes, you can use the glass plates, the carborundum, or whatever it is that Creality puts on their glass plates everybody else copies. You can absolutely use those. 100% use them. I don't believe it's worth the hassle of glass. Glass has a tendency to chip, crack, shatter, whatever it might be. And the carborundum coating is silicon carbide. Silicon carbide, for those that don't know, is sandpaper. Generally, most sandpaper is made of silicon carbide. Do you really want your brass nails potentially scraping over silicon carbide? I don't. PEI is a plastic. It will not damage your nozzle. You will damage your build plate before you damage your nozzle. So, something to put there. I see we got Maker Viking and Duff are hanging out here too. How you guys doing? Thanks for hanging out, coming over to the stream. Duff is dealing with some project scope creep with his living room window replacement. Ah, so you're the reason for the scope creep. Got it. Noted. Fernando Lopez asking what my opinion is on a second printer to have. They were leaning for a Core XY, and Prusa is delayed forever. It is not. Prusa just put out a new blog update. It was going to be this week's video, but Orlando Maker Fair is more timely, and I can do the Prusa video for 2 weeks. So the week after will be the Prusa XL update video, just so you guys know. But they have an official shipping date starting in January. There are a lot of these printers, so if you don't have a pre-order for an XL, you're not going to get it for a while. Just be aware of that. But a good second printer, Core XY, Voron kind of seems to be the hands-down Core XY printer to build right now. So, grain of salt there. They're just very, very expensive, but they're good builds. I believe it depends on what your first printer is to get a better idea of what your second printer is. And the same deal, how much money are you willing to spend, right? I want to do budget printers. If you got $2,000 to spend, you have a lot more options to put money into printers. In fact, you could just get multiple $200, $300, $500 printers, or one $2,000 printer. There's a lot of variation that you can get. KG says bed large enough to print a rep rack. Yep. If you are going to get into 3D printing, or someone you're going to get into 3D printing, rep racks are absolutely amazing. It's by Pooch from Repcord, and they're great ways to store filament. Although for me personally, the IKEA Vesken carts that are behind me are a much better option because I don't have space for rep racks in this office. So, yeah, Ostrike says powder coat PEI beats stickers because stickers can be easily damaged. You can damage both pretty easily. I've seen it. I might be doing a video on that soon where I run nozzles across PEI sheets to see what happens. But I need companies to send me I don't want to spend money on PEI sheets just to destroy them. So probably going to work with Wham Bam on that one. Okay, so Beanslinger6 says, hope the Neptune Pro build is a real upgrade. My Neptune 3 worked okay for a month, then factory stripped screws and other issues popped up. So if you have screws that are stripped, you can easily replace them. Again, cheap printers might come with bad hardware. I highly recommend, if it's metric, you go to trimcraftaviationrc.com. If one of the mods can post that link in the chat, trimcraftaviationrc.com. They do not pay me. The owner's name is Gino. He is amazing, and you go buy stainless steel hardware from him. He also has black oxide, but it's like fractions of a penny more to go stainless. And come on, stainless. But that's why I wanted to get a Neptune 3 and a Neptune 3 Pro for that beginner video, because I kind of need to have some seat time with them. And as much as I love Clayton, he is sponsored by Elegoo. And no matter what you want to think, there will be some inherent biases there. Now, do I think that Clayton, Uncle Jesse, is deliberately misleading people? Absolutely not. The dude is crazy awesome, stand-up, honest gentleman, and I expect him to be real with people if there are issues. But is he more likely to give a positive review than a meh review? I don't know, right? I want to believe that we as content creators have utmost integrity, but like, we're all humans, we're all fallible. And that means he might be looking at the sponsorship and saying, well, do I want to say this? Now, I don't know if he is. And that's a lot of speculation. And it's a little bit rude to him, because I really do like Clayton. He's a really nice guy. We've talked. Like, I've met him randomly. We've just talked. We weren't there doing content creation. We were eating lunch. And he's a great guy. I would absolutely trust his opinion, but it is something you do have to take with a grain of salt, right? Any content creator that takes money from a company that then looks at their product, you must take it with a grain of salt. It's just straight and utter fact. It's not any, yeah, I'm ranting about this because it is something that I feel very passionately about, right? E3D is a $10 a month Patreon supporter of my company. And I randomly get packages from E3D with really cool shit in them. It means that I am inherently somewhat biased. Now, I was already biased toward E3D before they paid me $10 a month. And if my opinion is swayed by, I don't know, a couple of grand a year, then I'm not a good person. So something to be aware of there. And any time that we do have a relationship with a company, we are upfront and honest about it. We let people know that there isn't a, extenuating relationship there. Anyways. Let's see. So, Favored Mind Prop says, I would prefer to order the Prusa Core XY, but it's mostly assuredly going to have a premium price. Yep, the Prusa XL starts at, I think the fully kitted out one's like $3,500. That's a lot of money, but it is a 5-head tool changer. Now, you could do 5 colors, you could do 5 different materials, you could do, soluble supports in one, and then 4 different colors. You have a lot of options with something like an XL, and to me as a business owner, there's way more value in something like that than there is in something like a Bamboo Lab, which is 4, materials, or up to 16 materials, but only 1 nozzle. So, anyways, thank you guys for posting links to Trimcraft. Adam says their Neptune 3 shipped with a bad board. Okay. Well, Adam, if your Neptune 3 shipped with a bad board, did you get taken care of? That's the big thing you got to look at. Did Elegoo take care of you? Did they ship you a new board? Again, you can't expect every machine to be perfect. Even Prusas can sometimes ship. I had a Prusa Mini come with a bad filament sensor. Okay. Went to Prusa's live chat, chatted them up. Yep, no problem. We'll send you another one. But we see that you ordered a few machines. Test all of your machines first. And if you need other parts, we'll ship them all together. Rather than us having to ship you a bunch of parts different times, it's cheaper for us on shipping and it's more, it's more cost effective. Totally understood that. Checked on my other machines. They were fine. And I got actually, no, I told them not. I am sorry I hit the microphone again. I told them not to send me the filament runout sensor. I told them to apply a code or apply a discount to my account. So the next time I ordered something from Prusa, it would just take the cost of a runout sensor off of the order. That made more sense for me. Anyways. Bias shows when you ignore or gloss over known issues. And that's fair, Zombie. But how will someone know if they're watching a video that there was an issue that I ignored or glossed over? And I will say a lot of times, like when I got pissed at Snapmaker, right? They don't talk to me anymore, right? Like they just don't. They were mad about that video. I tried to work with them and now they just don't return my emails. Okay, fine. You guys want to play that game? Fine. There you go. That one's for you. But they were really upset with that video. They said, we sent you this printer. Why did you do such a bad review? I said, well, you have a bad product. Your product is data mining. Your product, requires me to opt into full, unequivocal data mining to use your hardware. Like, I have every reason to be pissed about that. There was so much more about that rant that we cut from the main channel video because, well, it got ranty and we cut it. But you guys got the gist of it. But we cut it. And there'll be times that I say negative things that don't make sense or don't work for that particular part of the video that we might cut. But I do make sure in my wrap up that we mention something along those lines. Ostrike with the $5 super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for supporting the stream. Said, what are your thoughts on IDEX versus swap and purge for multi-material, not just colors? Have you tried both? I have. The big thing with IDEX is it needs to have a good system for wiping and parking. So Prusa is an IDEX, although technically it's a IQEX, independent quintuple extruder. If it's tuned well to park and it's tuned well to do that initial purge before it goes to print, I think they're great. IDEXs are amazing because you can do things like carbon fiber nylon and PVA support material, which have massive temperature swings, right? CF nylon wants around 270 or so, where PVA wants like 180 to 210. It's basically like printing PLA. And that kind of a swing on a machine that needs to purge material out through one nozzle is going to be disastrous, right? I prefer to have single extruders for single projects. So like one with PLA, one with PETG, another one with a different color of PLA, one with PVA, maybe one with nylon, right? I would prefer that way rather than having an AMS or an MMU or something like that. To me, as a business owner, I want more tool heads because I get more compatibility options that I can use. So that's my personal feeling there. Thank you, Ostrike, for your support of the channel. It's greatly appreciated. Adam Fentum is asking, did I pre-order an XL? I did, and I pre-ordered it with all the fixins. I'm expecting to spend at least $5,000 on that printer by the time it's all said and done. It will be a kit or a mostly assembled kit, whatever their kit option is, and we will be building it on stream. So that is coming. Community is usually good for highlighting issues with reviews. Yep, totally true. But be careful that it's not just a community of people that hate an individual. And, they're legitimately, like, stay away from Facebook groups. If you're a mom and you go to mom Facebook groups, or if you're not a mom and you go to mom Facebook groups, you kind of know what I'm talking about. They're they're sounding chambers, right? It's just like, it's echo chambers. Sorry, echo chambers. Echo chambers are problems, and it creates not just fanboy problems, but it produces inaccurate results. It is often that we see people saying it's wet filament as the main answer, and it's not normally wet filament. Now, don't get me wrong. Wet filament can and is a legitimate problem. I live in Florida. I am currently reading 54% ambient humidity inside. It is 80.4 degrees inside. Hilariously, it's colder outside. It's 75 outside, or 24°C outside. So probably should open windows, but it's like 85% ambient humidity outside, and I don't need all that extra humidity in my house. Zombie is saying, realistically, it seems you need dual nozzles for support and non-similar filaments. Yes, you do. Is it required? No. Is it better? Yes. Do I believe that first-timers should have printers with more than one nozzle? No. Do I believe that first-timers should have printers with more than one, like an AMS or an MMU? No. If it is an optional upgrade, great. Love it, use it, enjoy it. If it's not, that's fine. But don't start with it, because that's just adding more variables of ways for things to go wrong. So, and yes, build on sound, 5 tool heads, I'm doing the whole thing. Maddie says they won't be buying an XL, but still super excited to see it. And I get that, right? In fact, when the XL comes in, I might end up kicking the Fusion 3. So that might go up for sale. We'll see. Ostrich says, thanks, guys. I guess I'll pass on the Bamboo AMS. I don't know. The AMS for me on the Bamboo is more of a quality of life feature, because otherwise your spools are on the back, which is just a ridiculous place to put spools. Like if your printer's on the middle of a table, great, it's easy. But if your printer's on a rack system like mine, or it's up against a wall, having to reach behind it to change your filament is stupid. So, there's that. Maddie says, yesterday I ordered a Revo for my Prusa Mini. I've read some bad stuff about it on the Mini. What's my experience? Freaking love it, dude. I love my Prusa Mini with the Revo Micro. It is amazing. It is such an easy to use printer. It just works. I love the Revo system. Like if you are looking to upgrade a hot end right now, a Revo is such a good option, because I hate changing nozzles. I don't change nozzles because it's a pain in the ass. Like I switched the signed Prusa back here to a 0.6 diamond, and I still have not switched it back because it's a pain in the ass to switch nozzles. With a Revo, it's so easy to switch nozzles, and it means that I switch nozzles more often, and I pick nozzles that make sense for the printer and for the print, and not just work with whatever nozzle's on it. So that's my personal feeling. I will say there have been known issues with heater cores. And E3D is taking care of it. I say that as I have a heater core right here, a replacement heater core for one of my Revos. Now, completely different issue with that. I can't talk about that issue right now. We are still trying to figure out if the issue that I had is a one-off issue or if it is something that is occurring. But I did have an issue that nobody in E3D had ever seen before. So, it is an interesting one. I have controls right now, and we are testing currently to see if it was environmental issues or whatever. But I had an issue with a Revo that still they have never seen before other than mine. However, my Revo and all the stuff that came with it were all pre-production units. So might be a little bit different. But once everything is settled with that and we know what's going on, I will talk about it. We'll add it into a podcast at some point. Worst Peter says, how about SLS printers for beginners? Peter, if you want to buy me an SLS printer, you can. Good SLS printer start at like 40 grand. The Formlabs Fuse 1 is pretty much one of the best beginner SLS printers on the market. But even then, I've still seen issues with it. In fact, the SLS printer that we saw at Jinkspot, the Fuse 1 at Jinkspot that we saw, his has problems. And he's been dealing with it. So things to note. Adam Fenton is asking, what is my opinion on filament dryer boxes? Maryland weather is very humid during the summer. I purchased one of the East Sun filament dryer boxes and it has worked great for me. I have Sunlu S1 and S2 dryers. I bought S2 dryers during Prime Day when there were some stacking coupon things. I got 3 kilos of filament, 2 S2 dryers for a grand total of $9. It was great. Love them. I love the S1 and the S2. The S2 needs to use a reverse Bowden system or it does not function properly. And the S1 works fine reverse Bowden or otherwise. I very much enjoy my dry boxes. I don't print out of them all that often just because they take up a ton of space, but we do have a dry box above the Prusa rack. So if we are printing something like TPU that is notoriously hygroscopic where it absorbs water, I can go ahead and adjust it, right? So yeah, I like them. What else do we have going on here? Let me see what else we wanted to cover, because I do want to make sure that we cover everything that I'd mentioned. Yeah, so we talked about Voron kits. They're not great first printers, but they're good printers. We've got clones. Let's talk about clones, right? I mean, obviously, an Ender 3 is a clone of a Prusa. But let's talk about hardened clones, right? Clones of, let's talk about like a clone Prusa Mini from FizeTech, right? FizeTech makes clones of Prusas. I can't recommend them for first timers. One, they don't always come with printed parts, but two, support the companies that support the community. I did buy a FizeTech Prusa Mini clone. I want to compare it directly to the Prusa Mini and see what the differences are, where they've cheaped out. You know, let's look, are the rails good? Are they Misumi? Are the bearings any good? Are they Misumi, right? Are we using name brand products and we're just providing a cheaper option than Prusa? Or are we cheaping out and producing, you know, bad quality parts? We're going to find out. And that'll be something that I will be messing with. Hey, Geek Toy Box Dom, how you doing? I see Breaker 3D Justin is hanging out in here too. Thank you guys for coming over and chilling out. But yeah, I can't recommend clones for first printers, right? There's so many potential problems. And if you go to the main company, like let's say you buy a Prusa clone and then you go to Prusa for support, they're going to tell you to pack sand. Because, yeah, you didn't buy from them and they shouldn't support you, right? Be careful of that stuff. Now, when it comes to hot ends, right? Buy legit E3D when you can. Support the company that supports. If it's Mark 8, there are good Mark 8s out there. Like Micro Swiss makes a great Mark 8 hot end or Mark 10 hot end. Good nozzles. They send me free nozzles. So, you know, of course, full disclosure. But, you know, nozzles from Diamondback are awesome. From Champion X and Diamondback. They're great company. They make amazing nozzles made in America. But they are a $100 nozzle. And if you're spending $200 on your printer, do you really want to spend $100 on a nozzle? I don't think so. Do you need a hardened steel nozzle? No. No, you don't. Start with printing PLA, PETG. If you want to try ABS, you can. ABS is like hard mode for 3D printing. Especially if you don't have a closed printer. But like filament to buy, right? I buy printed solid filament. I love printed solid. Their filament is great. It's dependable. It's reliable. I do find that sometimes their PETG can be a little bit wet. So just like personally, I dry my PETG. Like this was a brand new, something in here. Brand new spool of their Mystery Orange. I know it looks red on camera. It's the white balance settings I have. But brand new Mystery Orange that's been sealed. Open it up. Put it on the printer. It's stricken like crazy. I let it ride because I'll just clean up the print. No big deal. It's a personal print. It's not something for a client. I then dry it for a few hours, and then I start the other part. Works phenomenally. Very little stringing. It was damp. It happens. PETG specifically is way more hygroscopic than PLA. Do you need dry boxes? No. It is not a requirement, and I think dry boxes are very expensive. If you want to deal with keeping your filament dry, you can look at a food dehydrator option and then use like sous vide bags that are resealable. Those are great options. And you can store it in desiccant. Mimi's cat litter. It's basically pure silica gel. Bake it first, obviously. You bake it at like 250 or so. That will release any moisture that's in it. I then pour it into tube socks. Go get the cheapest tube socks you can. Double up the tube sock. Pour the cat litter into the tube sock, because the tube sock contains all the glass dust, so you don't have to breathe that in. And then you put that in with, your bucket of filament that is sealable. Get a sealable container for all that. Or if you have a lot of filament, dehumidify your room, right? If you're worried about it, just dehumidify the entire room and you won't have any issues. Any specific, Brindle Sound is asking, any specific printers we should keep an eye on as a must-buy on Black Friday? I'm not aware of any good deals going on right now. Prusa obviously does deals for Black Friday. Yeah, I don't have my eye on anything right now. I don't really need more printers. I need more business. I don't need more printers. I need more business right now, but we are focusing on the Making Awesome Academy. For those that don't know, we are working on an education platform to teach product development and inventing to inventors, like first-time inventors. But eventually it will have more in-depth content about working on your 3D printer. It will be like a, how to deal with bad bed leveling or bed tramming. But these will be paid classes. They will be gated behind a paywall, and I will actively go after people that steal it. So just so you are aware, we will be retaining counsel for that, and we will be actively making sure that our content is not stolen. I will send demand letters. Chris Catlett says, to remind people that glow-in-the-dark filament is really abrasive. It is. Do not buy glow-in-the-dark filament with brand new printers. You're going to have a bad time. Don't do it. So, yeah. Dom says Prusa always has free shipping on Black Friday. No, Prusa last year only did free shipping on some of the machines. It was not all of them. So keep an eye on for Prusa. A lot of times it is free shipping. But if that save you like $50, dude, that's $50 in your friggin' pocket. That's like 10% off the printer for a mini. Zombie says, I like E3D, but the value of the geometric company that I refuse to mention on stream is a bit nicer for what you get. Either that or write to a Revo IMO. E3D has put a lot of money into development of the V6. And to go to geometric company is stealing money from E3D. Think about it that way. Now, I get it if you don't have the money and you will eventually buy a V6 to replace it. Fine. I get that, right? But just it's a thing. And yes, E3D did release the V6 completely in open source, but it is geometric company that I refuse to mention on stream is why Revo is patented. And some of the other bad actors that just stole without contributing. All they do is they steal. They just steal people's work. And yes, it's open source, but that doesn't not make it theft, right? If I say, yeah, you can copy me, just, provide back to the community, and they provide nothing back to the community, that's not playing by the rules. Anyways. But yes, the value of the Revo, it's not much more expensive than a V6. Go get a Revo. For drying, definitely cheap dryer like the Ibos, and dry the filament, then print right from it. Store your filament in reusable bags it comes with. Maddie says they think that filament dryers are stupid and a waste of money. Half decent food dehydrator does the same job. Yep, it does. And if you can go to a local thrift store, get a food dehydrator, clean it up and all that, it will do the exact same job. Now, it actually will do it better, hilariously, because it is passing air across the filament as it is also drying it. So it will actually do a better job. Does it matter? I think if you can get a filament dryer on sale, or you prefer the, what's the right term? Like the form factor of a 3D printer filament dryer over a food dehydrator, I totally get spending the money on it. So that's my deal. Yeah, Allison Ford says unless you live in the UK, it's always damp this time of year. Yeah, I live in Florida. It's always damp. Just period. Always damp. Maddie says, what? Prusa has Black Friday sales? I don't see anything. Yes, because it's not Black Friday. Unlike other companies, Prusa doesn't start Black Friday at the beginning of November. Black Friday is the day after Thanksgiving. Expect to see the sale pop up either the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, the Thursday of Thanksgiving, or directly on that Friday. And it will likely run through Cyber Monday. That's normally what they do, which would be that following Monday. So, yeah. Let me see. Oh. Breaker 3D says, ABS is hard mode. What is nylon or PC comparatively in your opinion? It's not possible on cheap 3D printers that we're talking about. So it's nylon and PC. I say add carbon fiber to them and they're much easier to print with. Because the carbon fiber keeps it from warping as much. That's my personal opinion. I don't really like to print in raw nylon or raw PC. I do it. I just don't like it because you have so many more issues with it. I will print with... I'll print with the carbon fiber variant more often. Adam Fenton says, Grant, I know you're not a Creality fan, but Micro Center is selling the Ender 3 S1 Pro for $279. It's a good price. It's a good price. It's not a bad price. It is hard to say no to Creality, but I think that there are other companies out there like Elegoo that actually stand up for the community. Elegoo has gone to bat for the community, and they seem to follow the rules decently well. Anycubic similarly, right? When Creality was being a bad actor with Creality Cloud, they joined the party to call them out, which makes me so happy to see that kind of stuff happen. But yeah, you know, you gotta be careful with some of that. And yeah, G-Tech stealing Chep's bed leveler. We talked about that 2 weeks ago. And actually, because of that, Chep is sending me a couple of bed levelers. So we're going to do a video where I race my brother. He's going to come up here. We're going to film. And he's going to try to level, or tram, a Ender 3 faster than I can do it with the piece of paper method. So should be an interesting video. I do believe that if you don't get a printer with auto bed leveling, Chep's leveler tool is an awesome, awesome option. Now... yeah, you can do it with feeler gauges, you can do it with the paper, but the leveler tool does kind of take a lot of the idiot out of the whole thing, so anyways. Oh, Zombie says he wants to try the H2 Revo, and that it seems interesting. Yeah? You think the H2 Revo seems interesting? Hold on, I am opening a box for no specific reason. Hold on. Just, like, no specific reason. Why would I ever open a box with E3D branding on it for no specific reason? Yeah. This is upcoming video on this too. But this is that H2 Revo system. This thing is tiny, like stupid tiny. I am really excited to play with this. I do not know yet what printer it's going to go on, but yeah, we got one, and I'm really excited to mess around with it. This is the H2V2S Revo edition. So this is from BQ. It has, you know, your standard Revo Hermera. I mean, it looks very similar to a Hermera on the side. It's not a Hermera, but it's branded now. BQ had a intellectual property dispute with E3D. Rather than being dicks, they just decided to partner and get into a business relationship, and that makes more sense to me. So Zombie says, put it on a KP3S. Hey, maybe you should get King Rune to send me one, because, like, they didn't return my emails either. Adam Fenton is asking, what kind of nozzle do I recommend for printing protopastas? Copper HTPLA. If it is copper laden, I recommend a hardened nozzle and a 0.6 at that. So make sure you get a 0.6. You can go diamond if you're looking to spend the money. Obviously, I love diamond nozzles. They are supporters of the channel. They send me nozzles. And I am in talks with them to become a sponsor. But they are a $100 nozzle. So take that with a grain of salt. They come with lifetime warranties, and they're made in America. So, you know, yeah. And like Duff says, hit that like button. Appreciate it. Uh, 2 grants equals one winner. One winner. Local maker says my brother and I look very different now, especially with my long hair and his lack of long hair. Any predictions for Form Next? Anything that I want to see? Form Next is going to be more about hardcore additive manufacturing rather than the small community. I know Joel is going. I know Pooch is going. Courtney from Filament Stories is going. I'm expecting to see some cool things from Velo 3D, but they make metal printers. So there's, yeah, a lot of what I'm looking at for Form Next does not really apply here. So Dom, we can talk kind of afterwards. You're a patron, so we can hang out in the Discord later on. But yeah, first time printers. All right, I'm gonna get back on track here. First time printers, man. Value. I love Prusa Minis. I don't know if they make great first printers because some people don't have great experiences with them. I loved them, and I've had no issues with mine. Other than that one filament runout sensor, which doesn't cripple the printer. Printer still runs fine. In fact, I don't run it with a filament runout sensor because I watch that one. That's my Revo printer. But, you know, I feel like it comes down to how much money you are willing and able to spend. Obviously, don't spend more money than you need to. Don't spend more money than you can. If you only have $200-ish to spend, Sovol SV06, Elegoo Neptune 3 or Neptune 3 Pro, those are great bang for the buck machines. Again, I have not used either of them, so, you know, don't blame me if they suck, but most people that I've seen that own them seem to really like them. So big bonus nachos there. Spore Luck is asking, how invested do you want to be with the printer up front? Well, if it's a present for someone, like it's a surprise gift for the holidays, do your research, obviously, but if you don't want to clue them into that they're getting a 3D printer, it's very hard for the individual that's receiving the gift to be invested. You as a gift giver can be heavily invested, right? And you should be, right? If you're a parent and you're giving a printer to a kid, being invested in that printer is valuable, right? Not only do you get to spend some quality time with kiddo, but you're also then able to help when things go wrong and, you know, do what you can as a parent, right? You know, good parenting and all that. Maddie says they had some issues with their Mini, twice replaced the print fan, and then the rattling bed's still unsolved, but otherwise so great of a printer. That's weird. Never replaced print fan, don't have a bed rattling issue. I mean, they're louder than other like V-wheel printers because they're just simply normal ball bearings, right? So they're louder. That's a normal expectation. But yeah, I believe that get a new printer, don't buy used, right? Don't bother with used printers if you're new to this. Definitely be looking into Sovol SV06, Elegoo Neptune 3, Neptune 3 Pro, Prusa Mini. I guess the Huracan if you want something a little bit more adventurous, but that's a terrible name for a 3D printer because a Lamborghini there's also a Huracan from Lamborghini, and you're gonna have a tough time getting SEO on that. And Allison says that her kids are getting nowhere near her Prusa. And you know what? If you got to buy the kiddo a printer as a means to buy yourself a printer, and then the kiddo gets to use it a little bit, hey, you know what? Call it, man. Like that's still a win in my book. But yeah, guys, anything else that you think that I missed? Because otherwise, I think this is a good time for us to call it. Been about an hour, 20 minutes into this. I covered all the printers that I wanted to talk about. Creality. So we covered Creality, Ender 3 CR10, the variants, Elegoo, Anycubic, Sovol, Prusa, covered Bamboo a little bit, Voron and LDO covered those. Yeah. Yep. Covered everything that I wanted to cover. So if there's anything else you guys think we should cover, let me know in those comments. Give you guys a couple of seconds there. Otherwise, that'll probably call it for this one. Printed Parts Inc. says Teflon melting, causing a partial clog on the Mini is a constant headache on the Mini when using PETG. What? if you're not melting Teflon at PETG temps, first off. 2, you'd know if you were melting Teflon. 3, no. I don't know what, so that's not right. The Prusa is an all-metal hot end. It's got, the PTFE goes right up to the brake, but it doesn't go down into the heater, so you shouldn't have melting issues. Now, if you're trying to retract and remove filament and you're getting that little blob at the end, look at making sure that you're cutting your PTFE for the hot end perfectly, because it might not be seated properly and allowing it to expand a little bit. K2 says there are a lot of great printers. It's great that we have so many choices. You know, I kind of agree. I miss when it was just like, yeah, you got this printer at this price point and that was it, because it was easy, right? It was easy to recommend machines. Now there are so many options. As someone that people reach out to for recommendations, it's hard for me to have like this is my bona fide recommendation, buy nothing but this printer. It's so friggin' difficult now. So, you know, a little bit weird. Oh, okay. Maker Viking says they use a K instead of a C for Huracan, so it should be okay. Well, yeah. And Modbot did do a great video on Ender 3 upgrades, so if you don't watch Modbot, go watch him. Great guy. Just had a kid. Congratulations to Modbot. Are we talking about the white hollow filament came with my Ender? Throw it away. Get good filament from good companies. Zombie says TLDR, just buy a Prusa, great stream. No, you know, if you got the money, yeah, go ahead. But if you don't have the money, I think there are good options out there for less money, where I didn't necessarily believe that afterwards. Maddie says, why does YouTube block links in chat? I sent you a link to the video of the bed rattling. That is because we had bad actors posting adult content. Maddie's DM it to me on Twitter or email it to YouTube at 3dmusketeers.com and I will take a look at it personally. Yeah. And only moderators can put links in chat because apparently I trust them, which might be a problem. Some of them are a little shifty. Looking at you, Catlit. But yeah, guys. Choices, Prusa kit or pre-assembled. Always Prusa kits. If you do get the mini, get the mostly assembled kit. It's much easier and it's only a couple of bucks more. But if you get a Mark III S, get the full kit. It is a great build and it's such a good build. It's honestly, it will ruin you for instructions of other printers because the Prusa is just so good. Anyways, guys, that's all I got for you all today. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And remember, call them and tell them that you love them. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one.